Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. My name is Ethan, and life is supposed to be full of joy, but sudden trouble shatters the peace. I had a clogged septic tank at my house that cost a whopping $250 to clean out. For exercise, I started walking around the neighborhood. Truth be told, 75% of my neighbors are nasties, but I still stop to chat with the few I do talk to. One day I brought up the issue of septic tanks to my friend Oliver. I didn't realize he had worked in the industry for 11 years. Oliver said, "The problem isn't your septic tank, it's a clogged filter." That's how I learned that septic tanks have filters. Oliver explained in detail what I was supposed to do, and then spent the next 20 minutes telling me about the strange things he'd encountered at work. One thing struck me. Oliver said he once lifted the lid of a septic tank on a job and found the filter clogged with nearly 30 condoms. He joked that he should probably throw them in the trash, at which point he noticed the homeowner blushing. Turns out that couple never used a condom in their 18 years of marriage. How did it turn out? I asked curiously. Oliver shrugged. "I'm not sure. I cleaned the filter, and he wrote me a check." One thing I do remember, though, is that when I left, the man was wearing a pair of kitchen gloves and was putting those condoms into a small bucket. It was wonderful. "I'm sorry," I thought to myself, looking down at the ground. Just then, my wife Sophia came screaming into the living room saying the toilet had exploded. It sure looks that way. Knowing full well that Sophia wasn't going to clean it, I cleaned the bathroom and then went out to check the drain. As soon as I opened the lid, sewage gushed out and I had to take a shower. It was Saturday afternoon, and I was wondering how much an emergency call would cost when Sophia came by with her suitcase. "I'm going to stay at my sister's house, so call me when you get this place fixed." "I'm sorry," she said and walked away. I went back inside and stripped naked right at the back door. Screw it, I thought. I'm going to take a shower and let the water run off into the backyard. In the shower, I contemplated my life. Married for 18 years, with a 17-year-old daughter, Emma, who was working as a counselor at a summer camp and saving every penny for college. I thought about Sophia and our growing estrangement. It seems I'm even more awkward now than I was as a newlywed, and sex is even more of a thing of the past. She's only 41 and still very attractive. Maybe this is a female menopause issue? I read about early menopause when I was at the doctor's office last month, so maybe that's what it is. For whatever reason, her attitude began to affect Emma, and seeing the hurt on my daughter's face at her mother's outburst was unbearable. "When Emma gets back, we need to talk. I've had enough, and frankly, if Sophia doesn't like it, I don't care. I'm tired of living in this toxic environment." After my shower, I decided to go to the bar and order a tasty burger and maybe have a beer or two. If I need to go to the bathroom, I'll just settle there. Just as I was about to leave the house, I saw my neighbor Walter picking up the evening paper. Suddenly, I had a flash of insight. Walter used to run a septic service company. Surely he still had some contacts and might be able to find someone to deal with the problem at my house. I stopped to talk to Walter for a few minutes and then made my request. He laughed. "Want to save $250? "Of course I want to," I said. "I bet your septic tank isn't full. I think your filter is clogged. You just need to clean it up. Tell you what, I'll fix it for you tomorrow after services." I was overjoyed and immediately invited him and his wife, Evelyn, to join me at the bar. For the next 2 hours, they talked about the strange things they encountered at work. It turns out Evelyn was a dispatcher for Walter's company and sometimes tagged along on assignments. They tell the story of a woman who lost her engagement ring. The lady paid them to filter the entire septic tank, and it turned out the ring was in a planter behind the kitchen counter. The next day at 1:30 p.m., Walter and Evelyn arrived as promised. We found the septic tank lid and opened it. The filter is right there, clearly visible. Walter put me in charge of holding the hose while he started pulling up the filter. About halfway through the pull, Walter began to grin. His wife looked down and giggled as well. "I found your problem, Ethan," Walter said. "Might have to throw those in the trash later." I looked at what he was holding and the filter was clogged with condoms. I counted 23 of them later. At first, I stupidly wondered how so many condoms got into my house's septic system. Then the truth hit me and my expression must have changed because Walter and Evelyn suddenly stopped talking. "I'm sure there's some explanation for this, Ethan." Evelyn tried to comfort me. "Maybe you've had visitors lately?" Or maybe Emma invited some friends over while you were away. Really, Evelyn? I said bitterly. Do you think I would let my guests stay at the house for so long that they would have time to have sex so many times? Or do you think my 17-year-old daughter suddenly started organizing orgies at the house? No, there's only one explanation here. They spent another 45 minutes trying to calm me down before they left. When they were gone, I put on thick gardening gloves and carefully picked up the condom, put it into a triple Ziploc bag, then into a plastic container, and finally put it in the freezer of the small shop fridge. Then I went into the house and started thinking. A lot of things suddenly became clear. We're done. No negotiations, no apologies, it's over. The only thing stopping me from taking immediate action was that I wanted to know who the man was. I didn't bother to call Sophia. Let her stay at her sister's. I have plans to make. For the next few days, I kept busy in the workshop. Emma needs me to pick her up. I've taken the day off. This is the first time I've seen her in 7 weeks. Emma gave me a big hug and excitedly told me about her adventures managing 11-year-old girls. Emma didn't ask about her mom until she was almost home. I told her about the septic problem. Is it fixed? Emma asked. Yes, fixed. I replied. Does mom know? No. I tried to contact her last night and this morning. Remember? She was supposed to come with me to pick you up. We had a whole day of family activities planned. Emma frowned, pulled out her cell phone, and called her aunt. Auntie, is mommy there? I heard an answer on the other end of the line. No, honey. Your mom's at work. Emma's expression turned serious. That's weird because I just called her office and everyone said she was on vacation today. She paused, then spoke into the phone. Listen, Auntie, Mom better call me back from the company phone instead of her cell phone in 20 minutes, or I'll have Dad drive me over there to check it out. If she gives up her daughter for some reason, I'm not going to keep quiet. After hanging up, Emma turned to me and sighed. Dad, you know, don't you? I nodded. How did you know? I heard about it at camp. Emma explained. My best friend Jenny has a cousin named Olivia, and Olivia has a boyfriend, Jack, who lives 3 doors down from us. Jack told Olivia what he saw. Olivia told Jenny, and Jenny told me. I was going to tell you tonight. I laughed bitterly. Straight from the horse's mouth. That must be true. It's not very proper to say the opposite to your daughter, Dad. I don't know, Emma said, with a hint of reproach in her tone. What are we going to do? Just then Sophia called back, sounding out of breath. After talking to her briefly, Emma hung up and said to me, she said she'd come across something. What a lame excuse. I took a deep breath, looked at Emma and said, listen, honey, this is a reality we need to face. You need to finish high school first and enjoy your senior year. You will most likely spend this time in a single-parent household. Considering your age, the judge may let you choose for yourself who you want to live with. Whether you choose to live with your mom or with me, I will respect your decision. Just please don't cut me out of your life. Emma laughed softly. What do you think? Of course I'd choose to be with you. I can swing you all I want. But Mom? She lives under the same roof as us and barely spends any time with us. I bet she doesn't even recognize me. Emma paused, then said, but right now, I really need to get rid of the smell of camp food. I could kill someone right now for a decent pizza or a good burger. So if you want to win the heart of your only child, start with my stomach. I took Emma to the local pizza place and watched her devour 3/4 of an extra-large meat lover's pizza with extra cheese. When she was done eating, Emma burped contentedly and then asked me seriously what I was going to do about her mom. She pretended to be mature and strong, but I could see the vulnerable little girl in her eyes. This is going to be a tough one for all of us. I took her hand and whispered, let me tell you what my priorities are, Emma. First, I had to make sure I handled this the right way. Over the next few months, I need to figure out how to minimize the impact of the divorce on you. Right now, you're the most important person in my life. I want you to be safe and do everything I can to make you happy. A lot depends on how your mom reacts. I promise you, I'll do my best not to get you caught in the middle. But, my dear, if my suspicions are correct, my marriage to your mother is over. Emma nodded thoughtfully, then said, Dad, you need to find a way to keep the house, at least until I graduate. After that, if it helps you financially, let Mom take it. I'm still planning on going to state college, right? My tuition is still covered, right? I hasten to reassure her, honey, I have enough money to pay for the first 3 years of school, even if your mom doesn't help. I assure you that I will have enough time to raise money for your last year of tuition. I solemnly promise you. When we got home, I told Emma to go organize her stuff and think about it. At this point, there are only two things I want to know: when we can get a divorce and who Sophia is sleeping with behind my back. In the end, things worked out easier than I thought they would. All those high-tech gadgets you can buy online don't compare to a good old-fashioned deer hunting camera. Maybe I'm not being accurate. The deer hunting camera I borrowed from my brother is actually pretty advanced, capable of recording 30 seconds of video when triggered, then switching to still image mode. It also provides a timestamp and can be set to zoom when triggered. They even have audio capabilities, but are usually too far away from the subject to pick up much sound. It took a little bit of brain power to figure out how to hide the cameras, but with the help of my brother, I created two birdhouses, each with a camera hidden inside. I mounted one on a tree next to the driveway that triggers whenever someone drives in, and the other on a pole aimed directly at the front door. I don't need to see them do that shit. It's irrelevant anyway. Sophia said something mean to me about installing birdhouses at the end of the summer, and I just told her it was to make the birdhouses look more natural so the birds would think they were part of the yard. Of course, I'm completely full of shit, and I know nothing about how birds choose their nests. She just shrugged, unimpressed by this. Here's the thing. Sophia works for a company that operates a flexible work schedule. So 2 or 3 days a week, she uses her 2-hour lunch break to make up the hours she works by coming in early or working overtime. Her boyfriend must work for the same company. Sophia always arrives home 30 minutes before him, hastily eats a sandwich, and undresses. He would arrive afterward, and then they would fool around for about 30 minutes before getting dressed and leaving. Sophia going back to work while he passed the time until it was time to go back to work. Sometimes, he'll stay at my house and drink a bottle or two of my beer, homemade beer that my friend gave me. I'm surprised I didn't notice. Maybe Oliver's right. Maybe I really am retarded. Anyway, when I found out, I moved most of the beers to the fridge in the workshop, leaving only a bottle or two in the house. These are the old ceramic cap bottles with rubber gaskets. I would drink a quarter of it and fill it with fresh urine. Then I would shake them hard and put them back in place. Every time I come home and find an empty bottle on the counter, I smile with glee. I could have made him sick, but honestly, I didn't care. About once a week, I would open the lid of the septic tank and take the condoms out. They can be really busy, using an average of 2 at a time. It's no wonder Sophia has no enthusiasm for me. She runs out of energy almost every time. After 3 weeks of careful preparation, everything was organized and ready to go. I'm not going to let Emma be there to witness this. No one should have to see a parent humiliated. I considered inviting the neighbors over to watch, but on second thought, I'd rather not. Instead, I set up 2 cameras and started recording. Oliver has an old portable stereo, the kind that uses cassette tapes. I keep it next to my closet, and it's barely noticeable. I try to time it just right so that the stereo would go off as soon as they were undressed. The tape kept idling until it played the sound I had recorded. I tested it, and it was loud. First, there was a harsh scraping of metal, followed by my angry growl. It hardly required any acting. I had so much pent-up anger that it all exploded out at the moment. You pair of backstabbing assholes. Then came the sound of breaking glass. I saw everything. How dare you do this in my house? I'll let everyone know about your scandal. Then there was the sound of something heavy falling to the ground. I'm going to make your secrets public. You are finished. I reckon I've seen this scene at least 100 times, and I can't help but laugh every time. They rushed out the front door like mad, running hand over hand to their respective cars. The man was wearing only a white shirt, with his pants, jacket, and tie grasped in his hands. I later found his underwear on the bedroom floor. I walked around to the front of the house and toward him. He screamed like a girl and jumped into his car. It was then that he noticed the gift I had left for him. I had previously prepared 2 5-gallon buckets, each filled with about 4 gallons of septic tank sewage and some solids, and evenly distributed those condoms. Just before the recording came on, I dumped these in the driver's seat. The idiot deserved it, who made him park in a strange neighborhood and leave his door unlocked. Nonetheless, that didn't stop him from driving away like a madman. Sophia came out screaming. She was trying to put on a white shirt, her bare breasts jiggling violently with the movement, while still trying to pull on her beige skirt. It seems I interrupted them at just the right time. Either they hadn't had time to take their skirts off yet, or he simply didn't bother. However, I noticed that she was wearing a white thong that I had never seen before. Pouring that stuff into her car was easy. Sophia has always had a habit of locking her car, even at home, but I had the keys. She was fumbling with her keys, and as I walked toward her, she realized the car door was open. She jumped into the car, door wide open, and tried to start it. It took about 15 seconds for her to realize what had happened. Her skirt was still pulled up, and that white thong was no longer white. I stood there, frantically taking pictures and laughing. I think she finally realized what I had done, and she screamed as she struggled to get out of the car. I closed the car door so hard I almost caught her leg. "Don't even think about getting off, you shit-covered bitch," I sneered. "But if you really want to get off, I'd welcome it. The lid of the septic tank is still open. I could throw you in and close the lid. You could probably dogpile in there for an hour or two, but eventually you'd be exhausted and slowly sink. Now I know that I only need to change the filter and may not need to empty the septic tank for 20 years. By then, there will only be a few larger bones left, and I doubt the guy pumping the manure will suck them into the pipe. The more I think about it, the more I think it's a great idea." I pulled out a set of keys and made a move to open the door. Sophia immediately puts it in reverse gear and frantically backs up the car. She knocked over a neighbor's mailbox and knocked over another. She sprinted out of our cul-de-sac at an alarming rate. "Hey!" I yelled at her, even though I knew she couldn't hear me. "This is a 20 miles per hour speed limit zone. Slow down, you crazy bitch. This isn't some residential area. This is a neighborhood." I told Emma what I did, omitting some details, of course. When she came home from school, she was at first shocked that her dad would do such a thing, but then felt admiration. People used to say they didn't know who my personality followed, and now they do. "You're not mad at me for doing this to your mom, are you?" I asked, a little worried. Emma shook her head. "No way. You didn't physically harm her, and to be honest, she kind of deserved it. But I bet she'll remember this day for a long, long time. Now, come and help me pack her things. Be neat and tidy. You've gotten your revenge, so there's no need for us to go too far." As we carefully packed Sophia's clothes, makeup, and jewelry, Emma found the sexy lingerie in the closet. She grabbed the scissors and cut each piece in half. "It seems that what goes around comes around." "Mom's not answering her phone," Emma said as she came out with the last pile of stuff. "She's at Aunt Gwen's. I just got off the phone with her. Looks like Aunt Gwen has been covering for her. Too bad Uncle Jack found out anyway. Anyway, I'll be back soon. Dad, now that you have the upper hand, maybe you should consider changing the locks tomorrow." 3 hours later, Emma returned. "Mom had a complete meltdown," she said, and she kept repeating, "This isn't supposed to be like this." I think she has some serious regrets about her choice. Can you believe it? She actually wants to go home? I convinced her to give you a couple days to cool off. Aunt Gwen followed me out and asked me if I thought you could forgive your mom and take her in again. I just laughed and drove off. I was still in a state of extreme anger, so I had my attorney serve the divorce papers at Sophia's place of employment. Gwen had to come pick her up. She refused to get a divorce despite my threat to make the videotape public. The judge ordered us to undergo marriage counseling. I objected strongly, but my lawyer told me to be patient and go along with the show. We'll have a total of 8 counseling sessions. To my surprise, I actually kind of enjoyed parts of it. The counselor we drew was a woman about our age, not bad-looking and well-proportioned. I noticed she wasn't wearing a ring. At the beginning of the first counseling meeting, the counselor, Miss Blake, asked us what we hoped to get out of these counseling sessions, and Sophia spoke first. "I want my husband and daughter back," she said, remorse in her voice. "I want to go home and rebuild our marriage." I forced myself not to laugh. Then it was my turn to speak. "Miss Blake, I honestly think this is a complete waste of your time," I said bluntly. "But don't worry, you'll get paid no matter what the outcome. I promise I'll do my best to stay calm, and I'll do my best to cooperate as well. However, I must tell you unequivocally that there is absolutely no way I can remain married to Sophia. She has ruined everything. The damage is too deep. What I hope to get from these counseling sessions is your written opinion that the marriage is beyond repair. So, shall we begin? I'm sorry you feel that way, Ethan, Miss Blake said, a hint of sympathy in her tone. I interrupted her. Why should you feel sorry for yourself, Miss Blake? Aren't we supposed to be honest here? If this is what I really think, and I'm sure of my decision, why would this make you feel sorry? I think my answer caught her a little off guard. She explained, I'm here to help you find a solution to your problems and see if I can save your relationship. I smiled and said, Miss Blake, I honestly don't feel lost or need help finding my way. My path is clear and I see only one person's footprints. It seems to me that you are trying to get me to accept a choice here that I find very unattractive and impossible. However, since I pay for these consultations, I should at least get some entertainment value out of them. Please go on. My attitude obviously upset her a bit. Mr. Ethan, she said gravely, you should know that if you don't cooperate or refuse to participate, I will have to report it to the judge. This could be bad for you. My expression turned cold. Miss Blake, I don't like threats, explicit or implicit. That's one of the reasons I record. With that, I pulled out a small tape recorder that had been running and placed it on the table. Mr. Ethan, you can't record these consultations without permission, Miss Blake exclaimed. I stood up and picked up the recorder. Okay then, Miss Blake. We're done for the day. Tomorrow I will formally request a new counselor. If I can see the judge, this recording will have a significant impact on his decision. Have a good night. Miss Blake and Sophia both looked at me dumbfounded as I left. Finally, through the efforts of my attorney, the judge assigned another counselor, an older lady who didn't mind me recording. The counseling that followed went relatively smoothly. Most of the time, Sophia pleaded with me to give her a second chance, and I kept refusing. The only heated argument occurred when Sophia tried to convince the counselor and me that she was just having a moment of confusion and would soon end the relationship. I immediately retorted, I don't know how time counts in the world of cheaters. How long does a brief fling last? Is it less damaging to a marriage than an ongoing affair? I can tell you with certainty that you had sex 41 times over a period of at least 6 to 7 weeks. 41 times. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. Neither of you had any intention of stopping before you got caught. 41 times required a great deal of planning and coordination to do so. It wasn't a moment of confusion, Sophia. It's a deliberate process of behavior. You guys are pretty smart, and this could have gone on for years if it wasn't for the clogged septic tank. But you got caught, and in a rather dramatic way. The ensuing counseling became rather tedious, and we were just going through the motions. By week 4, Sophia was crying constantly while I kept my cool. At the 6th counseling session, the counselor announced the end of the process. For months later, Sophia and I both had brand new divorce papers. I think the final division of property was pretty reasonable. Sophia is not required to pay child support, but she must pay half of the mortgage on the house and continue to contribute to Emma's college fund. There are only 10 payments left, so it's basically a fair deal. As soon as Emma graduated, we sold the house and split the proceeds equally. We sold it for a good price despite the real estate market downer. I used my share of the money to buy a new house 5 doors down from the original. The lot is bigger, there is an extra bedroom, and there is even a pool in the backyard, the only one in the entire neighborhood. It was a low-price sale, and I got it for only 2/3 of the original price. Emma excelled in college. She started bringing 2 roommates home on vacations. I would help them find summer jobs, and in their spare time they would lay by the pool and wear as little as possible. My family started getting regular visits from college students, both men and women. I've become an urban legend at work. Everyone calls me Rubber. I worked as a department head for a company that made brake parts for high-end cars. The main customers were Mercedes and BMW, but also Bentley and Land Rover. My salary is about the same as a shift leader in any other factory. I'm good at what I do and my bosses are happy with me. It wasn't until Emma was a junior in college that I started thinking about a new relationship. To be honest, I didn't want a relationship before. I've had a few fuck buddies over the years, but none of them were serious. Then Colette came to the company and she was transferred to manage another department. Our initial interactions were work-related, but every month management would go to a local bar to relax. 3 months later, I asked her out and she said yes. There are sparks between us, but we're moving slowly. It was almost 4 months before we became intimate. I felt that if she was going to come into my life, she should know about my past. So I told her the whole story, including how I got the nickname Rubber. She was a little surprised at first, then tried to hold in her laughter, and finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then she told me her story as well. Like me, she was married and her ex-husband resembled my ex-wife Sophia. He was particularly fond of anal sex, and Colette was hurt after only one attempt. Unprepared and under-lubricated for the experience, his attitude was, just come straight in and get used to it. Because of Colette's refusal, he started looking for company outside. Colette told me that when she discovered the truth, she bought an old blender from a thrift store, put on rubber gloves, and used scissors to collect a blender full of poison oak and poison ivy leaves. She mashed the leaves and strained them to get about an ounce of juice. She then used a syringe to carefully inject the juice into the half-empty tube of KY lubricant and returned it to her husband's stash. A week later, she got a call from the hospital. They had to rush her husband to the hospital. Turns out he had a severe allergic reaction to something. When I got there, he was lying on his back and the doctor had wrapped him in gauze because his skin was unusually sensitive, Colette said with a laugh. I swear, he's swollen like a porn star. I am talking to the doctor who is trying to determine the cause of the allergic reaction. I looked my husband straight in the eye and said, well, I told the doctor that he had a habit of shoving the poor little thing up any ass he could find. Maybe it was the poison ivy sap I put in his KY that did it? Do you think that's what caused it, honey? The look on the doctor's faces was so hilarious that one of the nurses even dropped her tablet on the floor. Colette continued, I said to him, honey, don't go home. Otherwise next time, I might do something permanent to your little brother. Then I said to the doctor, if you have another woman here with a swollen butt, you might want to check out room 312. That room is on the same floor, so I stopped by to check it out. She was lying on her back, her ass high in the air. It's so red and swollen. I swear it looks like an alien. Because of her position, she couldn't see who was coming in and asked if I could give her some stronger painkillers. I slapped her ass hard and she screamed. I leaned over and whispered in her ear, it won't ease the pain, but at least it gives you something else to focus on. I'm the wife of the man you screwed. I put poison ivy juice in the lubricant. Next time it might just be acid. Think about that the next time you decide to fuck someone else's husband. Colette said she worried for days that she would be arrested, but it seems that revealing the secret was worse than the punishment because she never heard anything more. After hearing her story, I stared at her dumbfounded. Suddenly, I grinned. I think I'm in love with you. She smiled back. You better. We decided to get married. Emma loved Colette and understood why she couldn't bring her roommates back the following summer. We needed those bedrooms. Colette has a 16-year-old daughter, Joy, and a 14-year-old son, Bill. Emma and Joy were bridesmaids, while Bill walked down the aisle holding his mom. It took us a few months to adjust to being a family. By the time Emma gets to college, she takes Joy on a tour of her alma mater. 2 years later, Bill was awarded a tennis scholarship. Now we're a few years older. The kids came to our 15th wedding anniversary. Emma is married with 2 children. Joy has 3 children. Bill brought his husband and an adopted daughter. The grandchildren splashed in the pool. The kids prepared dinner, and Colette and I sat back and watched it all quietly as the main characters. From where I was sitting, I could see a small decoration on the fence. Colette is a very talented painter, and she painted some of the decorations on our mailbox, birdhouse, and fence. The one I'm looking at is particularly small, barely noticeable, an inflatable condom with a poison ivy wrapped around it. Colette said it was a reminder, but we never needed it. As for what happened to Sophia, honestly, who cares? That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.